Okay, well, hi everybody. Again, glad you could make time today for this. Hopefully, this is very useful for you and your students and alumni as we go forward. I'm just going to quickly scroll through the data charts here. This is on our website. This is public, no login required, but it is not something navigable currently from the main website. So you have the URL from Heather. Other folks at GradLeaders could provide it to you if needed. But you see the concept here. There's just a lot of different views of the same data. The data is, all of these charts are showing all of our currently open job postings across all of GradLeaders partner channels. Now that's your school systems, that's multi-post and GradLeaders recruiting and an external job feed as well. The data is refreshed hourly. Now again, as you know, GradLeaders has many types of customers. This session is geared toward the graduate schools, the graduate business schools specifically. So for your purposes, you're always going to want to use this very first filter here. You know, whether it's you or your students using the tool, you're going to want to come in and use the graduate school filter right out of the blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you're going to see the numbers go down dramatically. The job feed that I mentioned is College Recruiter. And it is something that is very important to a lot of our undergraduate school customers, but they're not really relevant for graduate schools. And so while the numbers are markedly lower, I think there's still a lot of meat on the bone, as they say here, in terms of postings targeted to graduate school students. You can see over 4,000 current postings that are open, approved, and you know, visible in one channel or another, and over 1,700 companies. So lots of data here. You can see, you know, again, the charts change as you modify the filter, as you would expect. And we'll take a look at all of these charts here in the next few minutes. But you know, we're intentionally not giving away a lot of details on these jobs. You see job type, job category, and job location, as well as company names. We don't want to show things like job title, job description, and contact information for a few reasons. First of all, some of you as schools, right, you have employer relationships. You have employers that post just to your school. You don't want them necessarily getting directly contacted and barraged about things that may be just in your system or a handful of systems. Similarly, we have employer partners who have posted a lot of jobs as well, and they may target certain schools or certain audiences for postings. And so we're trying to protect everybody's best interest here, but also put the information out there in a way that it's there for everybody to find and use. Hopefully this gives all schools and students some extra info about employment opportunities, you know, specifically in their desired category of work, hopefully. And, you know, I think an ambitious graduate business school student could find a company name and a location on this chart, go to a company website, do a little research, and then see if there's any openings available that they're qualified for. So that's the general reason that this is out there. But let's just talk a little bit more about how to use it. Again, all of the filters are in play here. The job audience is the one that I would almost mandate you use. You know, otherwise there's going to be a lot of noise, you know, in terms of the wrong types of postings. I think it's also advisable and a best practice based on your type of student or alumni to use the job type filter. You know, obviously certain subsets of your students, the ones graduating recently or soon, are going to look for the full-time jobs. And then there's going to be plenty of students still trying to find that summer internship also. So again, you can see the numbers alter. If we look at each of the charts, the first two are just some general numbers. The map is focused on the US because that's where the bulk of our postings are. But I'll show you in a moment, there are postings outside the US as well that can be targeted and found. And then a couple of graphical charts, one breaking down the top 10 job categories, and job category translates to job function within your system. Now you may look at this chart right off the bat here, and if you do a quick add up of those top 10 numbers, you go, well, that's a lot more than 794 postings. Bear in mind, in most of your systems, employers can choose multiple job functions, multiple job locations on any single posting. So Things are not going to add up, but they are accurate in terms of there's 130 distinct postings for internships in the business development category. Keep in mind also that all of these little graphics, whether it's the state of Texas or one of these other charts, are clickable. You can click and drill into these charts to get more details. Now, you could click these drills at any point in time, but it's always advisable for the users of this to do a filter, get down to what you're looking for so that the amount of data is manageable and digestible, and then then click into the drill downs and get the detailed information. So you can see in the business development category there, there's a lot of companies here. You can see the job locations as well. So again, I think most of your students are highly motivated and very technical, and we'll just say, oh, Gershon Consulting, I'm going to go look them up on the web, see what postings they have, specifically this opportunity in New York City or whatever they might be looking for. Beyond these two, the job category chart here, this is just showing the posting volume that matches your filter in the last 4 weeks, right? And so the current week is always going to start off low, right? We've only had 2.5 days this week. So this number is going to bounce up as the week goes on. This data is refreshed hourly from all of the various job sources. And then there are just a couple of detailed charts here at the bottom as well, if those are useful. You can see, who the top firms are in terms of number of open postings from all of our channels. Okay, so we've talked about, sort of best practices to come in and filter to what's appropriate, especially using the top 2 filters. And let's just switch gears here for a moment and look at full time. Now, these other 3 filters, you could be looking for a specific company name, a specific job category, or job location. They're going to default to this is equal to, but it is an absolute best practice on these 3 fields to use the contains filter. And we've mentioned that in the little help up here on the web page. But I just wanted to illustrate that again. If you use is equal to, the system will spin and it will give you a complete list of every possible choice in the system, and that's fine, but it's also a very long and hard to navigate list. And then when you get down to category and location, as I mentioned earlier, there are multiple categories on a given posting. There can also be multiple locations on a given posting. So it's definitely advisable and a best practice to use the contains filter there. And in this case, let's just do a quick finance. So any posting that has finance in the function or category is there. So here we are, right? We've just done a search that one of your candidates might do. Grad school, full-time in the finance sector or finance category. So we could come in and click around. We could, again, do any of these drill downs to get to the information. And hopefully then, it's a great resource for your candidates. That is the extent of the presentation. We really wanted, I know Heather sent this out a few days ago with the hope that some of you would have time to get in here and click around and have questions, have suggestions, give us feedback. We really want to do that. I think I've heard one good suggestion just in a conversation I had one-on-one with someone, that could we put this on the student and alumni dashboards as a widget? Absolutely. It would be a link out to this web page. We wouldn't want to put all of this information on the dashboard directly, but I think you could write a sentence or two describing the resource to your students and alumni and putting a graphical widget there on the dashboard to link them out to this web page would be a great idea. So that's one possible use of this for you. Certainly your coaches in your office should have access to this, and they would be able to help your students find opportunities as well. With that, I'll ask Heather, do you have any questions coming in at this time?
Yeah, the first one is, does the portal include undergraduate and graduate ops?
Yes, by default it does. And when I first landed here, if I completely remove all the filters, you're going to see fairly enormous numbers in terms of the open postings. Now, again, a lot of those are undergraduate oriented, and a large chunk of this big number comes from our external job feed as well as our own network.
Okay. And then the next one is this instead of doing the reciprocity job postings project, or completely in addition to?
I think it's completely in addition to. I think if schools are using the reciprocity feature and you have agreements with some peer schools to, allow each other's students reciprocal access to your system. If I'm a student at school A and I have reciprocal agreements with schools B and C, I think I still get value out of logging into schools B and C if you're going to allow it and seeing the jobs that were targeted to students at that school. That's a great resource. This is to augment all of that. This lets you get beyond a small network of schools and use our entire network.
Agreed. Dave, next question is there a way to filter based on companies that are open to sponsoring international talent?
We didn't include that filter here. It is a piece of information that is on most of the school system job postings and our multi-post postings. It isn't part of that external job feed. And every school has done some customization around that field. So it's not necessarily apples to apples. Could be included, but I would hate to have it be misleading because we've obviously had to standardize all of the data that's in here. So it's not school specific values.
Okay. Next question was just someone who joined the call just a couple minutes into it and was asking, is the site open to anyone and do they need to log in to see it?
Open to all, no logins required.
Okay, the next one, sorry for the pause, I was reading. It says here, how do students apply to actual jobs that they identify through the resource? So just, Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about what's actually viewable? Again?
Yeah, I mentioned early on,
Yep.
and I may have gone a little quickly there, so we're not giving away specifics on these postings like the job title or the job description or the application processes, because again, if I'm an employer who has put in a posting, I logged into one school and maybe I used multi-post and I sent that posting to 6 schools, I've targeted those schools as part of my posting effort. And we don't want to do those employers a disservice by having them get inundated with direct applications that we caused. Now, again, if an ambitious student were to use our resource and say, oh, company X has a posting in the Bay Area and it's in the finance category, let me go look up company X on the internet and find that job and apply to it. I mean, that's fair game. So we're just trying to help the students and alumni find these opportunities. But we can't, I don't think we can in good faith to our school partners and our employer partners. I don't think we can disclose things like application addresses and email addresses and things like that.
Right, thanks. Once jobs expire on the respective system that, we sort of gathered the intel from, it is then removed, correct, from the interactive portal?
Correct. It is
Okay.
refreshed hourly. So.
Yep. So it's very real time. So once they expire, they're gone, and any new jobs that have come in since that last update will be part of the searching as well. The next one was just an example. If you could show an example, Dave, another job search example of showing different positions in different countries. Example is somewhere in Europe.
Thank you. Yes, I mentioned that earlier and then forgot to do it. So again, let's get down to the right audience here. Let's start with grad school. Let's look for a full-time job. We'll leave that off. We'll take full-time or internship just to illustrate the point. So again, I could say location contains, and if I just start to type, right, CHI, oh, there's Chile, there's China, and so forth. So I can put any keyword in here I want. And if I just hit, tab, it's going to go ahead and let me do another one. Right, so I could, for example, if I wanted to work in China, Japan, or Korea, I could put multiple keywords there, And obviously the USA has some postings, right? Because if I look at these jobs, 30 of them in California, again, this particular employer picked a lot of US locations as well as those locations in Asia. So don't let that throw you, right? A job can have many locations in many categories. But, here's the categories. Again, let's go pick on finance. You'll start to see the companies as well as the job locations that the employer has put with their posting. Something I neglected to mention earlier, I think it's obvious, hopefully, but let's just point it out again. The map, right? What do these crazy colors mean? Well, it really is just the lightest blue to the darkest blue. It's just a heat map, if you will. It's a volume indicator. So the most is the darkest shade of blue, almost purple. Any other questions, Heather?
Yep. It says, are the values that the host is putting in standard in the system? And so the answer is yes. The searchable fields that are in there are the ones that you're available to search on. It's not configurable by school. The fields that you're able to search on are standard across all of our network that's using it.
Correct. Correct. And we've done this at the standard level. So even though many schools have customized their job function list or their job location list or what have you, they're all mapping up to our standard GradLeaders list. And that's what we're using for this utility.
Right. The next question says, can a search be exported into Excel?
Out of an abundance of caution, which is a phrase we're hearing more and more these days, we did not enable the export out of the blocks. Again, we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that some of the data is coming from school systems. Some of the employers, in GradLeaders recruiting are involved as well. Could we turn on an export of just these data fields? I think we probably could. And I think if we get a consensus from schools and employers that that's okay. Again, we're not giving out any contact information or job titles or anything like that. So there's nothing specific there. We could enable the export if you folks on the phone think it's going to be a useful thing.
Yeah, I would say just following this call, if any of the schools have specific reasons, additional questions, just contact me. This is Heather, and let us know kind of what you're trying to get to, and we might be able to back into it in another way. So for example, if the idea is exporting data would be helpful for students, maybe it's the turning on access in a widget like Dave described, so that they can have their own direct access into doing their own research. So as you look at this more, please do share whatever feedback, ideas you have that might be helpful, or how we could expand this, right? So now that you can kind of see the things that we have, are capable of doing across all of our data elements, please do share any ideas that you have. Any other questions, or Dave, any other points that you want to share?
I mean, that's it really. We just wanted to try to explain to everyone verbally instead of via email, what is the purpose of this? Why did we make the decisions we did? How do you use it effectively? And so that's what we're hoping to communicate today. And, hopefully we did that. Certainly if there are any questions after we get off this call, as Heather said, you know where to find us. Anybody at GradLeaders would help get you the right answer.